Hey friends, welcome. Tonight, we're stepping into a time when the world felt like it was falling apart. A time of fear, mystery, and incredible strength. We're diving into the story of the Black Death, one of the deadliest plagues in history. What was it really like to live through it? To fight to survive while everything around you was changing? Let's find out together. Before we jump in, grab a blanket, dim the lights, and get cozy. This one's going to be a wild ride through history. And hey, if you like stories like this, ones that bring the past to life, hit that like button and subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy it, though. I want you here because you want to be. Also, drop a comment and let me know. Where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? It's always so cool to see how far these stories travel. Ready? Let's begin our journey into the shadows of the past. It's always amazing to see where you're all watching from. I love knowing we're sharing these stories across time zones and continents. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a small fan so there's a soft hum in the background. Get cozy and let yourself sink into the past. Congratulations, you've just opened your eyes in Europe in the year 1347. The morning air is crisp. You stretch on your straw-filled mattress. There's no private room. Your whole family shares this one small cottage. The walls are made of something called wattle and daub, a wooden frame filled with mud, straw, and clay. It keeps the cold out pretty well, though the thatched roof above your head sometimes leaks when it rains too hard. You sit up, and familiar smells greet you. The smoky scent of last night's fire, the damp earth beneath your feet, and yes, the strong scent of people who haven't bathed in a while. But that's normal. No one bathes much these days, and no one expects you to. Everyone smells the same. Your stomach growls. If you're lucky, there's a piece of bread left from yesterday, though it's probably hard as stone. You'd soak it in some ale to soften it. Even kids drink ale here. It's safer than water, which can make you very sick. Outside, your little village is waking up. You hear cows lowing in the distance, chickens clucking, and neighbors calling to one another as they head to work. Most people here are peasants. Some pay rent to the local lord. Others, called serfs, are tied to the land and must work it in return for protection. Life follows a steady rhythm. The sun rises, the sun sets. Church bells tell you when to pray. The seasons tell you when to plant and when to harvest. It's not an easy life, but it's the only one you've ever known. What no one knows, not you, not your neighbors, not anyone in Europe, is that everything is about to change. A shadow is moving silently across the land, and soon it will reach you. One day, a traveling merchant arrives in your village. He's brought silks, spices, and stories, frightening ones. He speaks of a strange and deadly sickness spreading through the cities. People dying by the thousands. A fever, painful, swellings, and near certain death. Some villagers cross themselves and whisper prayers, others shrug it off. Rumors come and go, the merchant moves on. Life returns to normal. But not for long. The stories keep coming, and they grow worse. By autumn, they say ships have arrived. At European ports, Venice, Marseille, Messina, full of nothing but corpses. God save us, your mother whispers, making the sign of the cross. In your village, people begin to worry. Some stockpile food. Others go to church more often. The village healer mixes herbs, but no one knows what they're really fighting. Then, one winter morning, a nearby village reports something terrible. Sudden deaths, people burning with fever, huge black swellings under their arms and near their groins. Most die within days. Panic begins to spread. Soon, a young man from your own village doesn't show up for work. Someone checks on him and finds him shaking with fever, sweat pouring from his body. His neck is swollen with a dark, painful lump. The plague is here. What follows is horror. The sickness moves fast. One day, someone feels fine. The next, they're coughing and weak. By the third day, they're gone. Some people develop black, swollen lumps, the buboes that give the disease its name, the Black Death. Some cough blood. Some die in just one day. No one knows what's causing it. Some think it's God's punishment. Others blame bad air. People carry flowers to smell something sweet. Some even blame Jews, falsely accusing them of poisoning wells. Though your village doesn't even have Jewish residents, the real cause, a tiny germ called Yersinia pestis. It lives in fleas. The fleas live on rats. The rats travel with people, on ships, through towns. No one in your world knows this. But it's how the plague spread so far, so fast. Soon your village is filled with grief. Church bells toll constantly for the dead. Then they stop altogether. There are too many to mourn. Bodies are buried in mass graves. Some lie for days in their homes waiting for someone to carry them away. People change. Friends avoid each other. Doors are closed. Priests, once the guides of the people, are dying too. Some flee. Some stay and die doing their duty. Somehow, your family stays safe. For now. But the stories are all around you. Of entire families wiped out. Of children dying alone. Of lovers torn apart within hours of falling ill. Then one morning, your little brother says he doesn't feel well. By noon he has a fever. By evening a swelling at his neck. You know what this means. Your mother cares for him non-stop. Your father talks about taking him to the monks, but they're overwhelmed too. You all wait, helpless. 3 days pass. He worsens. The swelling turns black. His breathing becomes shallow. You're terrified. But then something changes. His fever breaks. He's weak. Very weak. But he's still alive. Days later, the swelling bursts and drains. It's awful, but it's also a sign of hope. He survives. What you don't know is that your brother may carry something in his blood, a tiny difference in his genes, called the Delta 32 mutation. It helps his immune system fight the plague. Some people, by pure chance, are born with this protection. They're the lucky ones. And, strange as it may sound, this same mutation will one day help people resist HIV, a disease that won't appear for hundreds of years. But that's a story for another night, for now your family holds each other a little closer. You made it through. Others weren't so lucky. Your village has changed. Once home to 200 people, now fewer than 100 remain. Even the rich and powerful have suffered. The Lord in the stone house on the hill has buried his wife and 2 of his children. The gravedigger, who handles death every day, never gets sick. The midwife, always near the dying, stays healthy too. Like your brother, they may carry the same strange protection. But to the people of your time, it's seen as either a blessing or something darker. Food runs low, prices rise. People fight over remedies, herbs, anything they think might help. As winter comes, the plague dies down, for now. Fleas are less active in the cold. Rats stay in hiding. But come spring, it returns. Over the next 4 years, from 1347 to 1351, the Black Death will tear across Europe again and again. By the end, up to half the population is gone. The world will never be the same. Labor will become more valuable. The old systems of power will crack. People will question the church. They'll question everything. And from all this death and grief, a new Europe will begin to rise. Your brother, the midwife, the gravedigger, they're part of that new world. Survivors, forever marked by what they've seen. They'll carry grief, but also strength. And now, as the stars appear over your quiet village, you lay down on your straw mattress once again. The night is cool. A dog barks in the distance. Leaves rustle gently, and for the first time in weeks you allow yourself to hope. The plague has passed, for now. You've survived humanity's darkest hour. And in that we find the most powerful truth of all. No matter how much we suffer, humanity endures. We carry on. Modern science has uncovered a likely reason why some people seemed immune to the plague. It turns out, a rare genetic mutation might have protected certain individuals by preventing the plague bacteria from entering their cells. What people once thought was luck or divine intervention was actually a hidden advantage in their DNA, an edge in humanity's constant battle against deadly diseases. Then there's the heartbreaking story of Emmett Seidel and Roland Tora, two young lovers torn apart by the quarantine. Emmett lived inside the sealed-off village of Ayam, while Roland was from a neighboring town. When the village shut itself off to stop the spread of disease, they were suddenly separated. But they didn't give up. They began meeting at a distance across a deep valley called Cucklet Dell, careful to keep far enough apart to avoid infection. They couldn't touch, but they could still see each other and speak words of love across the gap. These distant meetings kept their hope alive until one day Emmett stopped coming. Roland waited, calling her name day after day, but got no reply. He didn't learn the truth until the quarantine ended. Emmett had died that spring, one of many young victims of the plague. Their love, though tragically short-lived, became one of Ayam's most powerful stories of devotion and loss. One of the strangest stories is that of Margaret Blackwell. She was thought to be dying and left alone by her brother. In a delirious state, she stumbled into the kitchen, terribly thirsty, and accidentally drank bacon fat, mistaking it for milk. Against all odds, she recovered. For generations, villagers claimed that bacon fat had cured the plague. More likely, Margaret had that same rare gene mutation that gave her body the strength to fight the disease. Still, her survival turned into legend, a symbol of how desperate people were to find a cure, no matter how strange. Religious leaders in Ayam tried to offer comfort through the chaos. Reverend William Mompesson, who helped decide on the quarantine, with former Minister Thomas Stanley, paid a terrible price for his bravery. His wife, Catherine, got sick while caring for others and died in his arms in the summer of 1666. After her death, Mompesson described himself as a dying man in a letter to his children, though he would go on living. Despite his grief, he continued to lead his flock, even moving church services outside to Cucklet Dell to reduce infection risks. Villagers stood far apart as they prayed, a kind of early social distancing. Even in the face of so much death, they clung to faith, rituals, and each other. But not everyone was noble. Some people stole from the dead. Some neighbors turned their backs on the sick. One woman, Mary Cooper, even tried to flee to Sheffield, but was caught and brought back. These were the exceptions. Most villagers chose to stay, knowing it might mean death to protect those beyond their borders. By the time the plague ended in November 1666, Ayam had endured 14 months of horror. Of the roughly 800 people who lived there at the start, only about 340 were left. Entire families vanished. The village was broken, its future uncertain. Yet the sacrifice had worked. The disease didn't spread beyond Ayam. Surrounding towns were spared. Thousands of lives were saved because a small village chose to stay put and face the worst together. When the survivors began to rebuild, they had no idea their actions would echo through history. They couldn't know that this would be the last major outbreak of plague in England, or that their descendants would carry a genetic clue to resistance against disease, or that centuries later their story would inspire people facing a pandemic of their own. They only knew they had survived something terrible. Their crops were gone, homes were empty, children were orphaned, families shattered. But people slowly began to rebuild. Relatives came to claim land, widows remarried, new families formed, skills became valuable, and those who survived found new purpose and strength. Life slowly returned. For some, though, the trauma never truly left. Elizabeth Hancock, who buried her entire family, remarried and had more children, but those who knew her said she often seemed distant, haunted. Marshall Howe, the gravedigger who looted the dead, survived but was shunned. The village remembered what he did. Reverend Mompesson left Ayam in 1669, still grieving his wife. He remarried and lived a long life, but his letters show he never forgot those grim months or his beloved Catherine. Over time, Ayam rebuilt. Some family names vanished forever, but others carried on. In the 1800s, as people became fascinated with stories from the past, Ayam's tale of sacrifice was rediscovered. Visitors came to see the graves, the boundary stones, and to learn about the village that stayed behind to save others. Today, Ayam is a peaceful village with a powerful legacy. Every year, a special service honors those who died and those who chose to stay. Modern genetic studies have found that many descendants of Ayam survivors still carry the CCR5D32 mutation, the same one that may have helped protect their ancestors from plague. The story of Ayam teaches us that history is not just about dates or kings. It's about real people making hard choices. Their bravery still matters today. As you drift toward sleep, imagine Ayam as it is now, quiet, with stone cottages and flower-filled gardens. But if you walk the hills and read the old plaques and gravestones, you'll feel the weight of what happened there. The villagers who stayed didn't act for fame or glory, they acted because it was right. In a world where self-interest often rules, Ayam reminds us of what people can do when they act for the good of others. Tomorrow night, we'll explore how the world changed after the Black Death, how power shifted, how societies rebuilt, and how the scars left by plague helped shape our world today. But for now, let Ayam's courage guide your dreams. It's a story of sacrifice, survival, and quiet hope. As the Black Death tears through Europe, guilds find themselves in crisis. With so many skilled workers gone, young apprentices are promoted to master craftsmen far earlier than usual. Roles once tightly guarded by tradition are suddenly open. Even women, long pushed out of many trades, begin to step in, filling the spaces left behind by dead husbands, brothers, or fathers. Take the case of Margareta, a weaver's widow in a quiet market town. Before the plague, she could only assist her husband in the workshop. Rules were strict. Women couldn't officially run a weaving business. But when her husband dies, leaving her with his loom, tools, and knowledge, the guild faces a tough choice. turn her away and lose a skilled worker, or break their own rules. With few members left and growing demand for cloth, the guild chooses survival over tradition. Margareta becomes a full member, a scene repeated across Europe as necessity forces change. For a time, women like Margareta enjoy freedoms their mothers could never dream of. As life rebuilds, so too does fashion, art, and belief. Death is everywhere, and artists begin to reflect that. Skeletons dancing with the living, grim reminders that no one escapes the grave. But even in the face of darkness, people embrace life with new intensity. Clothing becomes brighter, richer, more extravagant. Commoners wear silks once reserved for nobles. Authorities try to pass laws dictating what each class can wear, but few listen. Who's going to stop a merchant's wife if she wants to wear velvet and can afford it? Religious life shifts too. The church, once the heart of medieval society, suffers deeply. Many priests and monks abandon their posts, others stay and die. Monasteries fall quiet. People begin to ask hard questions. Why did good people die just as easily as sinners? Why didn't prayer stop the plague? Slowly, two very different paths emerge. Some grow even more devout, convinced their survival means they are favored by God. Others grow skeptical, no longer trusting the answers they've always been given. This questioning attitude, paired with more time and money in the hands of common people, helps spark what we now call the Renaissance. With fewer people to feed, more energy goes into learning. Schools start popping up in towns and even villages. Literacy spreads beyond priests and nobles. People want their children to read and count, not just to understand God, but to run businesses and move up in the world. The shortage of workers also pushes forward new inventions. Machines that save human effort become more valuable than ever. Water wheels no longer just grind grain. They power hammers for metalwork and fulling mills for cloth. Even bookmaking changes. Hiring a scribe to copy a book by hand is now far too costly. The pressure to do it faster helps lead to the invention of the printing press. Ideas will never move slowly again. But maybe the deepest change is in the mind. Before the plague, life was built on tradition, on the idea that things must always stay the same. But when so much collapses so quickly, people begin to see that change is possible. Life doesn't have to follow the old rules. It's not just kings or nobles shaping society. Everyday people, like Thomas the Ploughman or Margareta the Weaver, are adapting in real time. Their choices, multiplied across a continent, slowly reshape the world. Of course, it's not all progress. With fewer peasants to farm the land, some rich landowners lose everything. Churches and charities that once ran smoothly fall apart. In some places, crime rises as idle hands turn to trouble. Young men with money and freedom drink too much, fight too often. Empty farms become hideouts for thieves. Cities worry about how to maintain order with smaller watch forces, and the plague doesn't end after one wave. Smaller outbreaks keep flaring up for decades, slowing population recovery. In many areas, it's not until the 1600s that numbers return to where they were before the Black Death hit. But for many survivors, life improves in small, steady ways. Your brother, who somehow lived through the disease, is able to claim land left by a family that didn't. Your father, a skilled carpenter, is hired to help fix the church, work that pays well enough to add a new room to your house and replace the dirt floor with wood. Your mother teaches you and your sister to read, a rare skill for peasant girls before the plague. One night, as your family sits around the fire, your father says something unthinkable a generation earlier. Maybe you could work at the abbey, help them keep records. You can read and write. They need someone like that. Your brother chuckles. A clerk from our family? But you don't laugh. The idea stays with you. It feels real. achievable. That's the true legacy of the plague, not just higher wages or fewer nobles, but the new dreams people dare to have. As we near the end of this journey, we step back to see how the Black Death shaped not just the 1300s, but the centuries that followed. Let's begin with our very biology. Remember that gene we mentioned, the CCR5 delta 32 mutation? A tiny change in DNA that helped some people resist the plague. That same mutation passed down through the generations shows up centuries later in people who are naturally resistant to HIV. Scientists were stunned. A gene that saved lives in the 14th century ends up saving lives again in the 20th. But there's more. The plague was a brutal filter. The people who survived likely had immune systems stronger in certain ways. Over time, that shaped who their descendants would be. Some scientists believe this intense natural selection is one reason why autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis are more common in Europe today. The immune systems that once defended against plague may now overreact in a world where such threats are rarer. The plague didn't just change bodies, it changed society forever. In Western Europe, serfdom collapses. Peasants stop being tied to the land and start paying rent instead. In the East, though, nobles clamp down harder. Serfdom there becomes even harsher. This East-West divide shapes future politics, economies, and freedoms for centuries. Religion, too, never fully recovers. People don't stop believing in God, but they do stop believing blindly. The seeds of doubt planted during the plague help make the Reformation possible later on. Art changes too, no longer just about saints and salvation. It begins to show real people, real emotions, real fears, skeletons dancing, faces weeping, hands reaching for beauty in the face of death. These human themes grow into the Renaissance and beyond. Even our language carries plague memories. The word quarantine comes from Italian for 40 days, the time ships had to wait before docking. Deadline has roots in plague, boundaries. Even nursery rhymes may carry echoes of loss. The plague taught people that disease could spread from one person to another. Before then, illness was seen as bad air, bad luck, or divine punishment. But once cities saw patterns, how disease followed trade routes, how it moved from town to town, they began to act. Ships were held at port, sick homes were locked down, officials created early versions of public health systems. These tools helped Europe manage later outbreaks from cholera to COVID-19. But maybe the most lasting impact of the Black Death isn't in genes, economies, or governments. It's in how we understand disaster. Before the plague, few could imagine life turning upside down overnight. But survivors of the Black Death learned otherwise. They rebuilt, they adapted, they dreamed bigger. From Pompeii to Lisbon, from 1918 to today, we've carried this lesson forward. Even after the worst tragedies, people find ways to go on, to build again, to create something new. That is the lasting echo of the Black Death. Not just the horror, but the hope that follows.